Hello you beautiful people, Aaron here, welcome back to another video. Today is banner day, so let's go over them. I don't want to take up too much of your time and I want to get this as done quickly as possible, so let's just soar right into it. If you like my stuff, subscribe. Alright, let's get in.
Ayaka, present.
Ayaka has and forever always will be an absolute unit. She is a monstrous DPS who can tear through any sort of content in the entire game, and this is no surprise to anyone. She's fantastic and she's still fantastic. But just like with Hu Tao, the rise of Dendro, while it didn't make her worse, it did make her not as valuable of a unit, just because she's so easily replaceable now. Does this mean she's a bad unit? No, not at all. She's still absolutely fantastic. She's amazing. She's broken. She's crazy. She is also the only character so far that I have been able to successfully and easily kill the Electro and Regis fine with. Like, literally no thought, just throw out everything and it works every time. She's a very good and very valuable unit, but she does have her downsides. While she does deal an extreme amount of damage, she does have the energy issue requirement and the fact that she only works against either bosses or in freeze comps. Otherwise, she doesn't do anything. You can kind of use her as a melt enabler, but like that doesn't even work too well. She has trouble outside of her specific niche. They really need to build a comp around her, and that's exactly what the next 5-star Shenhe is there for.
Never let down your guard.
Shenhe is able to mega buff Ayaka due to her insane amount of buffs, but she's able to grant flat damage, she's able to grant percent damage, she's able to grant resistance shredding, all in her kit. She's absolutely crazy with Ayaka, but she's not like good with anyone else. You can use her with Eula, it's okay, it's not that great though, but I mean it works, and you can also use her with Ganyu, but Ganyu's like best comp kind of got power crept with the introduction to burning, which she benefits absurdly well from, but Shenhe is like, she's fine. She's a good unit, but she's not going to absolutely make or break your account. If you want to use her, you'll find a use for her, but she won't shine in any place other than with Ayaka. So if you are to pull, I would recommend Ayaka before Shenhe, because Shenhe relies on Ayaka to even function. But let's say you have both of them and you're thinking about going for Constellations. Should you get that fantastic Ayaka C2, or should you maybe go for some Shenhe Constellations? Well, it depends mostly on what you have already, but their Constellations are like really strong. Damage difference, all including Shenhe, Kokomi, Kazuha, and everything like that. The damage difference between Ayaka's C2 and her C0 is about 30.3%, which is a monstrous amount. If you don't have Shenhe, it's going to be a 40%. But then there's the fact that Ayaka's first constellation does essentially nothing. It is a little bit of an energy increase, maybe by one skill if you're able to do that, but otherwise she's not doing much. It's much more of a convenience thing, sort of like Alhaitham's first constellation. However, Shenhe's first constellation it's underrated. Because of how Shenhe's Icy Quills work, you're able to continuously apply the Icy Quill stacks onto all sorts of cryo damage, no matter if it's out or whatnot. So with Ayaka's burst, Shenhe would go from being able to apply 12 Icy Quill stacks onto an Ayaka's burst to a total of 17 or 19, which is actually cracked because Ayaka's burst hits a total of 20 times. So Shenhe with her first constellation is going to be applying her Icy Quill stacks throughout the entire duration of Ayaka's burst. And on top of that, she's also gaining even more energy generation. Like, it's a very underrated constellation. It actually turns out to be like better than her second constellation in terms of Ayaka damage output. The damage increase for Ayaka specifically from a C0 to C1 Shenhe is about 12.5%. That's not huge, but it is better than getting Ayaka's C1, at which point you're getting a 0% damage increase. So what you're looking for with constellations is generally if you have that Ayaka C1. If you do have Ayaka's first constellation, then you're going to want to go for Ayaka's second constellation because it's absolutely stupid. If you don't, I would recommend Shenhe's C1 because it helps with rotations, helps with energy generation, and increases the damage of your entire team by a massive amount. Crazy. Onto the 4 stars where we will be going from best to worst. First off is Sucrose, because Sucrose is absolutely broken. She is a Kazuha level support. If you have her built up, she will burn through everything. On top of that, with Dendro, she has gained a good buff, and that's because she's able to apply Elemental Mastery onto the rest of her team. So going like a Nahida with a Yaimiko, Fischl, and then Sucrose to drive is actually not too terrible. Even if you don't want to use her as a driver and just use her as a support, she could work like that too. With her first constellation and a Sacrificial Fragments, she's generating a crap ton of energy for your entire team as well. which is really freaking crazy when it comes to vaporize, melt, hyper bloom, urgent reactions, stuff like that. She's crazy. She's also really good in taser teams too. Next up we have Diona, who's a cryo shielder who, while she didn't technically get a buff from Dendro, her 6th constellation did, which grants 200 elemental mastery, which is a crap ton of elemental mastery. If you have that, you might want to try her in the fridge team. It might work absurdly well. Go ahead, have fun. However, Diona herself has not gotten like any sort of interesting buffs or changes or anything like that other than her C6. She's still just a very stable debuffer, healer, shielder. She's a very defensive unit. She's a wall and a half, but she's not that much better than like the top supports like Shinobu, Kokomi, Bennett, Zhongli even. She's still a very stable unit. She has some pretty good constellations other than one. I forgot what that one is, but I think that decreases the charge time that she has in her burst. That one's absolutely terrible. I think that's her 4th constellation. I don't know who the hell thought that was a good idea, but she's really good. But now onto the worst part, the banner, Mika, who is specifically a physical support, who doesn't offer enough physical support to make the physical element worth it. Like there's some good solid DPSs, but when Eula's best comp involves not her but Hyperbloom, you could say that physical's not in a very good spot right now, and Mika doesn't help with that too much. So should you pull for him? Probably not. He's not very good. He's cute, but that's it. Anyway, moving on to the weapon banner. Let's talk about the signature weapons. I'll start with Mitsplitter Reforged because that is the main weapon everyone wants. This weapon's freaking cracked. It's freaking broken. However, it is pretty on par with Jade Cutter, especially for the characters that want it. Jade Cutter is also a lot more versatile since it can be used on everyone other than Bennett, and with Fontaine coming out, Jade Cutter is going to be the better option because Fontaine is the land of Hydro, and Hydro scales specifically with HP, which Jade Cutter grants. Jade Cutter is going to get like a massive buff. I don't even think I should say that's speculation. I'd be honestly bewildered if that wasn't the case, but Mitsplitter is still good, especially when Fontaine comes out, specifically because it has the damage and the percent damage modifiers on it. If it didn't have those, it wouldn't be that great, but with that, it is able to scale really well alongside Jade Cutter. For every sword character, Jade Cutter and Mitsplitter are about like on par with one another. There are very few characters where they aren't, but as of right now, in the majority of the situations, Mitsplitter is generally better than Jade Cutter. So should you pull this weapon? Depends. Do you have Jade Cutter? Now, you might want to look into it, but the weapon banner also depends on the other signature weapon, which is the Calamity Queller, which is a weapon that sucks. It's generally not a good weapon. It is Shenhe's best in slot weapon. It requires a lot of energy recharge for her to use, and all around the other weapons kind of do about the same or better. Her next best is Engulfing Lightning, which is better on a lot more characters, and it's just a very valuable weapon, especially for a Raiden Shogun who's like broken. But then there's also Favonius Lance, which has a very high base attack and allows Shenhe to battery her team very effectively, which can then increase not her damage but her team's damage by even more. While this weapon is very good for Shenhe, it's not versatile. It's not going to be played on anyone other than like a Raiden Shogun if you're trying to use her off field, or Zhao, who also has an on-par weapon in the standard banner and who works best with Staff of Homa. So you might as well just get one of the other weapon options out there over her signature Calamity Queller because it's just not that strong on enough characters to really make it worth pulling for. While that may be the case, there are some amazing 4-star weapons. We'll start with the 2 Favonius weapons, Favonius Morbo and Favonius Lance. These 2 weapons are crap. They're crazy. They are part of the Favonius series. It makes this weapon banner even better than other weapon banners that don't have any sort of Favonius weapons just because of how crazy good the Favonius weapons are. So them being on this banner just raises the value extremely high. Favonius Warbow can be used on basically any character, but it really excels for Aruzon, Pale, Yolan, Goro, Diona, and Venti if you want to build him as more of a battery. It's really good for those specific characters, especially Yolan. And then there's Favonius Lance, which is still insane, especially for the rising amount of support polearm characters that we've been getting. And polearm characters that are support generally don't work well because there are very few good supporting polearms. The only one that's out there is Favonius Lance. You kind of have to run Favonius Lance on any supportive polearm character. This would include Zhongli, Rosaria, Homa, Shenhe, Yunjin, Candace, Yao Yao, and Mika himself. It's kind of a must on those characters, and it's specifically because they have no better option. So these 2 weapons are like a must pick. If you lose your 50-50 on the weapon banner, but you get 50 of these weapons, you won the lottery. These weapons are better than most 5 stars out there. Then there's Sacrificial Sac Sword, which it's fine. It's an okay weapon. It's not that good though. It's only really a good option for characters like Alhaitham, Nilo, and Shinsho. And even for Nilo and Alhaitham, they have better options. It's a good weapon technically, but there's not many good utilizers of the weapon. Oh, there's also Kazuha. And we have the two bad weapons, Wine and Song and the Bell. Bell, terrible weapon. Doesn't do anything for anyone. It's not good for Dea, not good for Dory. It's bad weapon. It's terrible. And then there's Wine and Song. It decreases stamina consumption, grants energy recharge, and increases attack. It's not very good. It does have like good uptime, and it's fine if you don't have the Widsith, which is the best main DPS catalyst out there, which this is supposed to compete with, but it's blatantly losing. It's just not a good weapon. Never. Okay, anyways, I think that's it for today. I have babbled on for a long time. I'm going to try and trim this to be as short as possible. Tell me your thoughts about the weapon banner in the comments down below. Do you plan to pull for Ayaka? Do you plan to pull for Shenhe? Do you plan to pull for Mika? Tell me your thoughts in the comments down below. Thank you all so much for watching, and I hope to see you all next time. Bye bye.